Mom, something impossible is happening. My pilot son's voice shook through the phone. Elena is at your house right now, isn't she? Yes, I replied confidently, hearing the shower upstairs. She's taking a shower. His voice dropped to a whisper. That's impossible, Mom. I have her passport right here. She just boarded my flight to France. At that moment I heard footsteps behind me. A chill ran down my spine. I'm glad you're home, came Elena's voice from the stairs. If you're watching this, hit that like button because this story of deception will shock you to your core. My name is Sarah Miller. I'm 65, living in Phoenix, Arizona. My husband passed 10 years ago, leaving me with 2 sons I love more than life itself. David, my architect son, married Elena Rodriguez 5 years ago. She seemed perfect, beautiful, caring, devoted to my 7-year-old grandson Tommy. I considered myself blessed to have such a wonderful daughter-in-law. Marcus, my younger son, is a commercial pilot living his childhood dream of conquering the skies. For 5 years, Elena had been the ideal wife and mother. She cooked, sang lullabies to Tommy, asked about my day and actually listened. Our family felt complete. But that Tuesday morning changed everything. It started like any other day. David left for work, Tommy caught the school bus, and Elena went upstairs for her shower. Then Marcus called during his airport layover. We chatted about his flights, but suddenly his tone shifted. Mom, Elena's at the house right now, right? I glanced toward the running water upstairs. Of course, honey. She's in the shower. Long silence. Then his voice became deadly serious. Mom, that's impossible. I have Elena's passport in my hand. She just boarded my flight to France. I laughed, thinking he was mistaken. But Marcus didn't laugh back. After passengers boarded, I found a passport at the gate. Elena's photo, Elena's name. So I checked the cabin. His voice carried absolute certainty. She's in first class next to a wealthy man. They're talking like a couple. My heart stopped. At that exact moment, the shower stopped upstairs. Mom, Sarah, who's on the phone? Elena's voice drifted down. Panic shot through me like electricity. Just a friend, I whispered, rushing to the living room. I closed the door, hands shaking. Marcus, I just heard Elena. She's here. Mom, it's impossible. I'm looking directly at her on this plane. I hung up, collapsed on the couch. If Elena was here, who was on Marcus's flight? And if that woman was Elena, then who was upstairs in my home? Minutes later, Elena came downstairs wearing a clean blue dress, hair still damp. I'm going to market early. Need anything special? Her voice was sweet, familiar. Some tomatoes, please, I managed. She took her basket and left. I watched her disappear, my mind reeling. Sitting there, I began examining memories I'd dismissed. There were days Elena seemed like a completely different person. Sweet one day, cold the next. Patient with Tommy sometimes, irritable others. I remembered an incident months ago. Elena wrote the grocery list with her right hand, neat, straight letters. The next day she wrote with her left hand, curved, flowing script. When I asked about it, she laughed. Just practicing writing with both hands, Mom, Sarah. I'd forgotten about it. Now it felt like glass cutting into my consciousness. When Tommy came home from school, he showed me his homework. Grandma Sarah, the teacher complimented my drawing today, he announced in his sweet, chirping voice. I hugged him tightly, trying to smile naturally, but the weight in my chest hadn't lifted. Tommy sat down at the kitchen table and pulled out his school notebook to show me his artwork. Grandma, look at this, he said, pointing to 2 different pages. Yesterday Mom helped me with my homework and she used her right hand. Her writing was so pretty and neat. But today she wrote with her left hand and it came out all messy and ugly. My heart sank looking at the stark difference between the handwriting samples. Your mom must have been tired, sweetheart. But Tommy looked up with those innocent, observant eyes children have. Grandma, Mom is so weird sometimes. Some days she hugs me tight and tells me she loves me. Other days she barely looks at me, like she doesn't want me around. His words pierced through me. Just then the doorbell rang. Mrs. Collins, my neighbor, confirmed my fears. Sarah, your daughter-in-law is so nice, but yesterday she gave me a plate with her left hand. Didn't you say she was right-handed? And her personality. One day she's so sweet, the next day she won't even acknowledge me. At the bakery, Mr. Johnson said the same thing. Your daughter-in-law came in yesterday so pleasant. This morning she was scowling, didn't even say thank you. Even Matthew noticed. Some days mom hugs me really tight, other days she doesn't even look at me. I started keeping a notebook documenting every inconsistency. 3 p.m. Elena Eves wearing white blouse. 6 p.m. returns in blue blouse, claims she spilled something. Personality. Cold, used left hand to right. The evidence was mounting, but I needed proof. That weekend, David worked overtime and Tommy had school activities. Just Elena and me at home. Elena came downstairs in a beautiful yellow floral dress. Going to market, Mom Sarah, she said sweetly, taking her basket. A voice inside insisted, follow her, Sarah. I grabbed my shawl, partially concealed my face and left quietly, maintaining distance behind Elena. She walked toward our usual market but suddenly turned left into a narrow alley leading to the city's poorest section. I hid behind parked bicycles, watching her continue into an area I'd never seen her visit. The houses were run down, cramped together with peeling paint and rusty roofs. Not Elena's usual territory. She walked confidently through an even narrower alley where sunlight barely penetrated. I concealed myself behind an auto repair shop, watching in shock as Elena stopped at a weathered wooden door, knocked 3 times and disappeared inside. My heart raced. What was my daughter-in-law doing in this neighborhood? This wasn't the market, wasn't near any friends she'd mentioned. I wanted to knock on that door and demand answers, but my feet felt nailed to the ground. I was terrified of what I might discover. I turned and walked home, my mind churning with more questions than ever. I'd barely pushed open our gate when I stopped, completely frozen. Elena was in our kitchen, calmly chopping vegetables. She wore a crisp white blouse instead of the yellow dress she'd left in. Her expression was cold, sharp, nothing like the sweet demeanor she'd shown leaving. She looked up suspiciously. Where did you go, Mom Sarah? I stood speechless. How was this possible? I'd just seen her enter that house wearing yellow. How had she returned so quickly in different clothes? I just went for a walk, I stammered. Elena nodded without speaking, but her cold stare sent shivers down my spine. That evening, Tommy burst into my room sobbing. Grandma Sarah, Mom yelled at me for dropping a pencil. She wasn't like this yesterday. Yesterday she was nice, gave me hugs, told me she loved me. I held him tight, fighting tears. Tommy whispered words that will haunt me forever. Grandma Sarah, I want yesterday's mom back. I don't like today's mom. Even a 7-year-old could sense something was fundamentally wrong. That night, sleep was impossible. I stared at the ceiling while disturbing images played over and over. Elena in yellow disappearing into that alley. Elena in white standing coldly in our kitchen. Marcus's voice, she's on my flight to France. I pulled out my notebook and wrote with shaking hands. Maybe they are not the same person. Those words felt like a curse, making my entire body tremble. The next morning I made a decision that would change everything. I took our family photograph and returned to that rundown neighborhood. I showed the photo to a street vendor. Have you seen this woman? She pointed toward the deteriorating houses. Oh yes. She comes and goes from house number 14 quite often. My heart pounded as I walked to the weathered door with stained walls and a wilted daisy on the window frame. I knocked, each sound reverberating through my chest. The door slowly opened. Standing before me was a woman absolutely identical to Elena. Same face, same body, same long black hair. Only the terror in her eyes and trembling hands gripping a dirty rag were different. Elena, I stammered. The woman, startled, tried slamming the door. But another voice called from inside, soft but firm. Isabella, don't hide anymore. You know this is wrong too. A second woman emerged, thin, intelligent-looking, with hair in a neat bun. I'm Lucy, Isabella's roommate. Please come in, Mrs. Miller. It's time you knew the truth. I stepped into the cramped house with water-stained walls and cracked concrete floors. In the corner, an elderly man coughed weakly on an old cot. The Elena lookalike kept her face down. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. I'm so sorry. I'm not Elena. My name is Isabella. I stared, mind spinning. Isabella. Unfamiliar name, but that identical face was unmistakable. You need to explain why you look exactly like my daughter-in-law and why you've been in my house. Lucy sat beside Isabella, speaking calmly. Isabella comes from extreme poverty, Mrs. Miller. Her adoptive parents are very ill. Years ago she met Elena at the market. They discovered they looked like identical twins and Elena saw an opportunity. My blood turned to ice. Elena proposed that Isabella replace her for hours whenever Elena needed to disappear. Isabella didn't want to, but Elena paid well, and Isabella's family desperately needed money for medical treatments. I looked at Isabella, head bowed in shame. Replace her for what purpose? Isabella met my eyes, trembling. I don't know all the details. Elena told me to stay in your house for hours, do normal things, market, care for Tommy, household chores. She paid generously, enough for my parents' medications. I didn't dare ask where she went or what she did. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I was trying to save my family. Every strange detail clicked into place. The handwriting switches. The personality swings. The voice changes. Everything made perfect sense because I hadn't been living with one person, but two completely different women taking turns. As I looked at Isabella's identical face filled with pain and desperation, one question burned through my mind. If Isabella had been replacing Elena in my home, where was the real Elena going? What was she doing during those hours she paid so much to hide? And most terrifying of all, how long had this deception been going on without me knowing? The real story was just beginning. Back in that cramped house, Lucy's eyes sharpened. I once saw Elena with a wealthy, elegant man at an upscale coffee shop downtown. They called each other darling and sweetheart like longtime lovers. I heard them use the name Charles Thompson. Charles Thompson. The name hit me like a physical blow. I remembered Marcus's words from that first shocking phone call. She's in first class next to a rich, elegant man talking like they're a couple. The room began spinning. I knocked over my water glass, hands shaking violently. Elena has been deceiving my entire family, I whispered. Isabella broke down completely. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted to save my parents' lives. They're all I have. Looking at this young woman with Elena's face but eyes full of genuine pain, part of me wanted to scream. But seeing Isabella's obvious desperation and love for her dying parents, I felt only pity. She wasn't the mastermind, she was another victim in Elena's selfish game. Do you know where Elena goes when she asks you to replace her? Isabella shook her head, still crying. She'd just give me instructions, then pay me. I was too scared to ask for details. I stood up, trying to sound firm despite the storm raging inside. I don't blame you personally, Isabella, but I need the complete truth. I have to protect my son and grandson from this deception. The next morning I returned to that narrow alley, gripping our family photograph like a talisman. Isabella led me to a corner where a thin woman with white hair lay in bed, her eyes cloudy and unfocused. This is Mrs. Rodriguez, my adoptive mother. I took the frail woman's hand. Her voice was so weak I had to strain to hear. Isabella is not my biological child. She's a baby I adopted when she was just a newborn. My heart stopped. Please tell me exactly how that adoption happened. The dying woman coughed painfully. Many years ago I was a nurse at a hospital 50 miles from here. A very poor family came in, they'd just given birth to twins. Twin girls. The blood drained from my face. They were so desperately poor they couldn't afford to keep both babies. The mother was crying hysterically. They could only manage one child. The other baby, they were planning to abandon her at the hospital. My heart felt like it stopped beating entirely. I couldn't bear to see that innocent baby abandoned. So I adopted the second twin, that was Isabella. I raised her as my own, but I always knew she had a biological family somewhere. I sat gripping my chair, head spinning with implications. Do you know who Isabella's biological parents were? She shook her head weakly, only that they were extremely poor from a small town near the Mexican border. I didn't ask questions. I just wanted to save that precious child. Isabella was sobbing. When I first met Elena at the market and saw how similar we looked, I thought maybe she could help me find my real family. But Elena never told you anything about your connection? Nothing, Isabella replied, voice filled with betrayal. She just used our resemblance to deceive your family while pursuing her own desires. I examined the yellowed adoption papers Isabella retrieved. My heart nearly stopped. Isabella's birth date was exactly the same as Elena's. I stared at Isabella in complete shock. You and Elena are not just lookalikes. You're identical twin sisters. Isabella broke down completely. So Elena really is my sister? My own twin? Why didn't she tell me? Why did she use me like this instead of helping me find our family? Elena had not only deceived my family, but exploited her own identical twin sister, using Isabella's poverty to cover her affair with Charles Thompson. I placed my hand on Isabella's shoulder. From this day forward, I will not allow anyone else to take advantage of you. I'll help your parents get medical care, but you must help me bring this deception to light. Isabella nodded through tears. I'll help with anything. I don't want to live with these lies anymore. I called Marcus that night, voice steady and determined. You need to come home tomorrow evening. Bring copies of Elena's passport records showing her recent trips. He sounded worried. Mom, has something serious happened? Just come home, son. I need you here. I knew the following evening would be a night our family would never forget. I prepared an elaborate family dinner, our best tablecloth, candles, David's favorite chili, Tommy's beloved roasted fish. I wanted this meal to be memorable, marking a clear before and after in our family's history. David came home exhausted, surprised by the elegant setting. What's the special occasion? I just wanted our whole family together, I replied, forcing calm. Elena entered wearing light blue, her usual smile in place, but I noticed nervousness in her eyes she hadn't shown before. Tommy hugged my legs. Grandma Sarah, the fish smells amazing. I stroked his hair, feeling a painful lump in my throat. After tonight, Tommy's innocent smile might never be the same. We sat around the table. David discussed his architectural projects. Tommy chattered about school drawings. Elena nodded occasionally, but her hand trembled slightly holding her spoon. She sensed something significant was coming. I took a deep breath and signaled toward the front door, where Tommy was waiting with Isabella. Tommy walked into our dining room and directly behind him came Isabella in a simple brown dress. Her face was identical to Elena's in every detail, but filled with anxiety instead of Elena's usual confidence. Complete stunned silence. Tommy looked between them with wide eyes. Why are there two moms here? David's face turned pale. He dropped his spoon with a clatter, staring in disbelief. Elena jumped up, shouting, "What is this about? What's going on?" I stood slowly, gripping the table edge. Sit down, Elena. We need to clear up everything that's been happening. I told the complete story, Marcus's phone call, the inconsistencies I'd documented, my visit to the rundown neighborhood, the separated twin sisters. Elena and Isabella are identical twin sisters. You've been using your own sister's poverty to hide your affair with Charles Thompson while deceiving our entire family. Elena was trembling, white as our tablecloth. She tried defending herself. She's making up lies to humiliate me. But Marcus stepped forward, placing official documents on our table with a definitive thud. These are copies of your passport records with entry and exit stamps from France. You cannot possibly be home caring for Tommy while simultaneously flying to France to meet your lover. Elena stared at the damning documents, completely unable to respond. Tommy suddenly spoke with a voice that cut through everyone's heart. It's true, Grandma Sarah. Some days my mom is like an angel who hugs me. Other days she's really mean and yells at me for no reason. I never understood why she was so different. My grandson's heartbreaking words were like a knife in my chest. Lucy Martinez entered through our back door, providing final evidence. I personally witnessed Elena with Charles Thompson at an expensive restaurant downtown. They were holding hands, calling each other darling and my love. Elena hired Isabella to deceive your family while she was with her lover. David turned toward his wife, voice choked. Is it true, Elena? Please tell me this is all some terrible misunderstanding. Elena remained silent for an eternity. Only our wall clock ticking and Tommy's quiet whimpering filled the room. Then suddenly Elena exploded with fury I'd never seen. Yes, it's all true. I do have a lover. I'm sick of this boring, poor life. I'm tired of being trapped in this suffocating house. Charles gives me a life 100 times better than anything you could ever provide. She turned toward David with pure venom. And you, David, you're completely worthless. You'll never amount to anything. Her cruel words detonated like a bomb. David sat frozen, hands clenched into white-knuckled fists. Tommy began crying uncontrollably and ran to my arms. Grandma Sarah, what did my mom just say? I held him tight while tears streamed down my cheeks. Elena stood there cold and heartless, showing not even the slightest remorse for the devastating pain she'd inflicted on her own family. David finally managed to stand, his body shaking. Elena, do you really feel that way about us? About Tommy? Instead of answering, Elena walked toward our front door without looking back. Isabella, who'd been silent throughout, suddenly spoke. Sister, you didn't have to hurt them like this. I just wanted to help you, but I never knew you planned to go this far. Elena stopped at our doorway, glared at Isabella with pure hatred, but said nothing. She walked out and slammed the door with tremendous force, leaving our dining room in painful, deafening silence. Elena left that night and never returned. A week later, David and Elena divorced. She didn't fight for custody. Tommy was just a prop she'd grown tired of. But from the wreckage came something beautiful. Isabella began visiting daily, bringing warm meals, playing with Tommy, wiping his tears. Unlike her cold, calculating sister, Isadora had a genuine heart full of love. One evening, I found Tommy hugging Isabella. Mom, Isabella, teach me to draw a bird. He was calling her mom with pure joy. 6 months later, David knelt before Isabella with a small ring. You brought light back to me and Matthew. Will you be my wife and his mother? Through tears she said yes. Their small wedding in our backyard was filled with genuine love. I'm sharing this story with the hope that other mothers suffering in silence will recognize the signs and find courage to seek truth within their own families. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Every story shared could be a guiding light for someone else struggling with similar challenges. Like this video and subscribe if this story touched your heart. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey.